Alright you guys, just got a game I have to share with you, and the reason is because if you see on my stats here, this is my 15,000th game on chess.com. So it's not the most accurate game. It's a rapid, we're both in the 1400s. And here it is. So I think we go into a London system here, but it's quite a satisfying one. Both of us around the kind of 50% accuracy mark. But let me take you through it, because there's some good lessons in here. So okay, so we've got d4, and I'm starting with knight to f6, and out flies the bishop to f4. So we are looking like we're in London territory already. I play d5. He brings out his knight to f3. And I'm now getting ready to do a King's Indian defense setup on this side of the board. Okay. And now e3, obviously. Bishop g7. He brings out his other knight here. So very, very standard London setup. I castle. He pushes c3. I bring out my bishop now, controlling some few more squares here. Another option could have been bishop to g4, pinning this knight. My opponent plays bishop e2, and now e6, just defending this pawn here, and I'm getting ready probably to play c5 and try and start messing up his little pyramid there. Queen comes out now, attacking b6 pawn, b7, so I push to b6, white castles, and now I push c5. So if pawn takes, he's capturing towards the outside of the board, and I'm not going to capture there. I would capture towards the centre, and maybe try and shut off these light squares. White now plays his bishop out. Okay, so I just simply kick the bishop with a6. Okay, dogs are having fun. Bishop now retreats, so gained a bit of a tempo there, and now I decide to push c4. Harassing the queen and blocking off this bishop's path. I don't know if c4 is the right move. We could analyse this later. Queen now retreats. I develop my final minor piece, and we are so far in a relatively peaceful situation. White now pushes b3, attacking my pawn, so b5, ready to recapture. Captures, and now in comes the knight. But I'm figuring this knight doesn't really have much. It can't capture there, it can't capture there, it can't capture there right now. So I decide here to push h6 and force the knight back. It goes back to f3. Now I bring my queen out, eyeing up an undefended pawn. Maybe arguably not a much of an aggressive attack or credible attack, because he simply moves his queen across to defend. And now I bring my knight in to e4. These very common moves trying to get your knights into this square, or in White's case to e5. Maybe we'll end up with a trade of knights. So he takes. Now I can recapture either with the bishop or with the pawn. I decide here to capture with the pawn and really force again this knight to have to do something. Right, so I'm taking these squares away from White's pieces, really trying to capitalise on the space. Notice here, of course, that I've also undefended my pawn on c4 at the same time. So knight now retreats, and now I realise that I've got two attackers on this pawn. So I didn't really think that one through. Two attackers, no defenders. There's nothing I can do now to save that pawn. I could defend with one knight. I could defend with a rook, I could defend with a queen, but that's not going to stop me losing the pawn. So I counterattack instead, pushing up on the king side now. g5 to hit the bishop. Bishop comes across and attacks my rook. So I play rook to c8. One defender against his pawn, but it's not enough. Knight comes in now, attacking my queen, also defending his own bishop here. So queen drops back to d8, and his bishop retreats and gets out of trouble. So now all I've really done is kind of messed up my pawn structure a bit, created quite a lot of play for White on the queen side. He's now got a completely passed pawn here, and things are looking quite good. I've also messed up my own pawn structure on the king side as well. So how's it going to go? I'm down to 8 minutes. He's down to 7 minutes. So I start to bring in my knight. Rook comes across, my knight comes in again. Again, not really attacking anything yet, but white now decides to trade off his bishop, which I'm kind of happy about. It means that I've got the bishop pair, even though I'm still down a pawn here. If the board opens up, maybe it might be quite good. I mean, my dark squared bishop isn't quite so happy, faced with all these dark pawns on white side. And now I fall for a rook fork. Okay, so things are going from bad to worse. So rook b8 now, knight takes rook, rook captures. I might have ideas about coming after this pawn, we shall see. Okay, now the queen comes up, now attacking this undefended pawn. Again, I decided to capture with the pawn instead of the bishop, maybe it was the wrong choice. So bishop drops back, and I'm kind of looking a bit more solid. Things are relatively well defended on this side of the board, but very open on the queen side. So his rook comes across, now he's starting to line up his big guns on the queen side of the board. So now I push up with my h-pawn. Now, what I think white should have done really here is probably push h3, because I'd already calculated that he can't move his bishop there because I've got two pieces looking at it, right? It's defended only by one rook. He can't come there because queen takes, pawn takes here, and I'm threatening h4, but white now makes a mistake because he puts his bishop here, and that's no good because I have f6, and now the bishop has nowhere really safe to go. So he comes back here, I push h4, trapping the bishop, and we have a trade-off. So he grabs one pawn as compensation, but now things are a little bit more even. I have the bishop pair, okay, but white has a rook, and it has to be said, a better pawn structure. So, game on. He pushes ahead with c4. I move my queen across, so I'm starting to think now about maybe lining up my queen on the semi-open g file and just trying to go after white's position here, try and open up that king. I've got to do something, right? When you're in a position like this, you can't just sit back and let your opponent drive his pawns up the board. I mean, these pawns with three minor pieces behind them could prove just too much. So I've got to strike now. Okay, now he pushes c5, obviously. Queen g6. Queen comes out now. Right, so he's kind of looking at this pawn, but is defended by my bishop right now. And now bishop h3. Okay, this was my idea, and I'm threatening now, obviously, mate in 1. So he's got to do something. I think he can only push g3. So he pushes, I take, he recaptures. Okay, so we're starting to get the can opener out on this king here. So what can I do? Have I got time to try and get my queen into here and try and checkmate him that way? At the same time, these pawns are starting to lurch up the board on the queen side. I've got an undefended a-pawn here as well. Okay, so pushing up with my pawn now. This is all I can do. Got to try and open things up. Queen comes in looking at my a6 pawn, and if the queen captures that pawn, she's also then looking at my rook as well. Do I have time to execute my own attack, right? So now queen to here, and obviously what I'm thinking about here is a forced mating sequence. So I'll take here with check, right? King can't go there or there or there or stay where he is, so the king would have to go in the corner, at which point queen to f3 check, king can only move back here, and then I would have a checkmate. So my opponent here thinks for a while. No, he doesn't. He thinks for 8 seconds and defends that pawn. Right, so now the queen comes up. I've got to get my queen into here now, right? Now he grabs a pawn, right? Because I've just blocked off my bishop's defense of that pawn. Right, see, the queen was defending with this pawn move. That pawn is now only defended by the queen, but now, after I move my queen up, there are no defenders. So he grabs the pawn with check, king h7, getting out of check. Right? Now he moves his rook forwards. So now he's defending this square against my queen coming in. Right? So now my queen can't go to there with checkmate. I can't capture that pawn either. So what do? Freddy. Up you come Freddy. Now, e can take the f-pawn. Okay, but no, queen captures here. And now I attack the queen. Right? Queen grabs another pawn. This is now looking desperate. Desperate times. Okay? So, rook f8. It's defended by this bishop. So I've got maybe ideas about moving this bishop with a discovered attack on the queen. But, if you look at my opponent's position, he's only got one piece on a light square. So there's not much danger that this bishop can actually inflict. Pawn to c6. Right? It's now looking terrible. So I bring my bishop back to c8, preventing this pawn from promoting on there. Okay? And now, rook to c1. Okay? My opponent here gets overexcited, blunders his queen. My goodness. Okay? Pawn takes. And now it's a case of trying to finish off the job, right? So bishop d4. Right, happy I found that move. Capturing the pawn with check. Okay, the king doesn't have that many options. My queen is going to come flying in some way, or this bishop might come in as well. And although I'm only +1 at this point now, my opponent thankfully resigns. So let's do a quick game review. I think it's definitely worth looking over. Definitely some obvious mistakes, but my opponent's big blunder at the end, simply not realising, even though he's got time left on the clock, didn't realise the discovered attack on the queen. And look at this, wow. Right, 5 blunders from me, 2 by my opponent. Okay, so let's go through. I'm sure we've got a few book moves here. Inaccurate. Not great, that move. It doesn't like that at all. Okay, that's excellent. Okay, and we're looking all right so far. Pretty equal at this point. Okay, he brings his bishop out. Another inaccuracy. Okay, it's saying instant c5. Fair enough. Okay, but that's not what I played. Queen out, not fantastic. That's good, but there was a better move. Knight to here. Allow him to take the pawn. That could be interesting. Okay. Well, I do that. Now he castles. And he's still only plus 0.4. That's a good move. Better would have been h6. Well, I do play h6 in a bit. Okay, so he brings his bishop out. Not great. I attack it. Still not the best move. Oh, trapping the bishop in and attacking the queen. That could be interesting because the bishop can't go here or here or here. Or there. Yeah, I missed that one. So I kick the bishop, bishop retreats. Now this is good. Queen retreats. Okay, so far so equal. Nothing's come off the board. Doesn't like my knight move. What should I have played? h6 again. Right. Okay, well h6 does come. So now he plays b3. Best move, takes. What? It's saying that capture with a d pawn is better? Hang on. So he does that. I do this. That's not the best move. Best move was d takes. Excuse me. So why is d takes better? Well, I suppose that capturing with the b pawn, don't know, it leaves me with an isolated pawn here, but somehow, d takes is better. Okay, well, now his knight comes in, and apparently that's a mistake, and now the computer likes me. Okay, and now h6, which is what it's wanted me to play for a while. Queen to here it likes. Okay. Queen there, and now knight e4 is a mistake. Okay, what was better than that? What did I miss? Is it maybe g5 now? I don't know. Let's see what the computer thinks. Rook across to defend this pawn. Well, we had two attackers on that pawn. Oh no! Oh no! It was already defended once. Okay, but what I did was this, and this is obviously better, and that's a blunder. Right? Obviously I should have taken with the bishop. Okay, so best move would be, yeah, bishop takes. Yeah, I should have left my pawns, not opened myself up to weaknesses, kept the pawn structure intact. Okay, but I take with there, and of course now he comes in for the pawn, which it's saying I should have defended earlier on. Okay, so yeah, this really wasn't great. So I made a couple of mistakes here. So first of all, it's saying I should have taken with this pawn before, and then allowing this trade of knights. I really just did leave that pawn completely undefended, didn't I? So there takes. Bad move, Hunty. Bad move. Because the knight retreats, and then we've got an overwhelm on this pawn, also creating a passed pawn for white, which nearly proved fatal. Okay, doesn't like that move either. Okay, yeah, opening up the dark squares. Because if pawn takes here, I can take that with the knight, I can take that with the bishop, and I'm also starting to threaten down this long diagonal as well. Yeah, so when you've got a fianchetto bishop like that, you really do want to make use of the sniper line. Okay, but so I do this, he does that, doesn't like that move. Best, okay. That's a mistake, apparently. He should have played. Huh. Because, yeah, I'm not going to defend the pawn anyway, right? It's already attacked by two minor pieces, and I've only got it defended by rooks. I'm not going to recapture the rook, whatever happens. And there's nothing else that can really defend. Okay, but, so he captures with a knight, not great. And I bringing my queen back here is terrible. What I should have done is come in there. Huh. See, my knight also is protecting against this rook fork as well. But I bring my queen back here. He retreats his bishop. Now I move my knight, which is okay, but again, I've opened myself up to this. Now my queen is the only piece defending that square, which I completely missed. Okay, and a better move here would have been pushing up now to come after the bishop. Okay, fair enough. Okay, but we do this. Okay, now my knight comes in. Computer says that's poor. Trades. He shouldn't have done the trade. Best move. And now white is in a completely winning position. That's okay. Takes. Pretty much forced. Bishop retreats is good. A better move would be pushing up now. Okay, but we do figure this out. Okay. So retreating the bishop, defending that pawn. Okay. And so I defend the pawn. He moves the rook across. Now it likes this, right? So I saw the same plan the computer saw. That's no good. Okay, and now we win material. That's a mistake. Okay, white had an advantage. White should have played. Okay, pushing the pawn up. Right, so queen to here it doesn't like. So this is my plan, to bring my queen onto there and line up with the king. Better move would have been instant h3. Okay. And that would, let's see the line. Oh, I don't see quite how it's better. But anyway, so I play queen here. That's a blunder. That's a great move. Good, but I'm still -4. No, now I'm winning. It says I'm winning here. Forced. That's a blunder. Oh my gosh. Why? There was a better move. What's the better move? come around, attack the rook. Maybe try and get my bishop in there. I don't know. So that's a blunder. What should I have played? Queen here, just threatening to come straight in. Okay, so so this is looking like an unstoppable mate. Right, so if I get queen in here, there's nothing he can do. Because the king can't escape, because of the bishop blocking that, right? So the queen's going to come in. Right now he has to move this pawn, in which case queen takes anyway. Now he has to put a rook onto this file, I think. Okay, interesting stuff. So, best, I shouldn't have taken there. Best move, okay. That's a mistake. Ooh, my God, it's a real roller coaster, isn't it, this one? What should I have done? Coming up with the pawn now. Okay, but I do this, he does that. Another blunder. Loses a piece. Yeah, I know, but I was banking on this. Okay, now I think he should have probably taken the rook there. Yeah, should have taken the rook. So he doesn't. He does this. Now I push the pawn, and he hates that move. Oh dear! Attacking the queen, no good. Oh my goodness! Wow, Rook C1 is a missed win. Okay, so he's gone from +7 to -6 with that blunder. Okay, and that's a great move. So what he should have done here is, yeah, forced an exchange of queens, and he's in a pretty much a one position at that point. Wow, what can I say, guys? Game number 15,000, proper roller coaster. The graph is all over the place. But I tell you what, it was a fun game to play in the end. Yeah, I think it's completely one position for white. Clearly not my best showing recently, but yeah, very satisfying all the same. So there you go, game number 15,000. Got another 15,000 to go for sure. It's still in the tank. That's it from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.